narcissistic brother is accusing me of stealing his family and having an affair with his wife after his daughter said I'm more of a father figure to her than he is. To give you some background, I have a brother who's always been complicated. We never had a traditional sibling relationship, and it wasn't because of one specific thing, it was a million little things. He was always quick to get in a bad mood, quick to point fingers, and God forbid if something didn't go exactly his way. He's the kind of person who sees every small disagreement as a huge betrayal. I learned early on to handle him like you would a very sensitive coworker. Say the right thing, don't push too hard, and pick your battles. We never fought openly, but we weren't really close either, just brothers out of obligation. Still, I tried, especially when he married Kayla. Obviously, that's not her real name. Kayla and I hit it off from the start. She was pretty down to earth and calm. Basically everything my brother isn't. At his wedding, I genuinely felt happy for him, like maybe he'd finally found someone who could balance him out. I even organized his bachelor party when he asked me to. It was one of those brief periods when things were really good between us, as if our relationship was finally improving. Then his wife got pregnant. That's when the cracks started showing up again, even worse than before. I remember the day he told me it was going to be a girl. It felt like someone had died. I'm not joking. He started ranting about how girls were a problem and how he was already dreading the teenage years. I told him he was being ridiculous, but he wasn't joking. I could see it on his face. It wasn't nerves, it was resentment. And it only got worse after his daughter was born. I'll never forget that moment. I was at the hospital with my parents, cousins, and my sister-in-law's family. I arrived maybe 30 minutes after the birth. Instead, I saw him storm out of the delivery room, furious, face red and enraged. Later, he called me while he was driving home, completely ranting about how he couldn't handle it. I told him to stop acting like an idiot and be thankful that his daughter was healthy. He hung up on me. That was when I realized he had no idea what he'd signed up for. I tried to stay optimistic, but everything went downhill from there. In the following years, things only got more chaotic. His marriage started to fall apart. There were constant fights, which I only heard about through Kayla. My brother rarely opened up to me unless he wanted to complain about how hard his life was. I kept my distance, but once his daughter, I'll call her Ellie, was old enough to talk and interact, Kayla started leaning on me more for help. Primarily, I became the last-minute babysitter when my brother flaked or when they had some explosive fight. I work from home and live about 25 minutes away, so I became the default person to call when things went out of control. And I never minded. In fact, it was always easy to deal with. She's a sweet girl with a sarcastic sense of humor that honestly reminds me a lot of myself. Now she's 14, but we've had a great bond since she was about 9 or 10. I never set out to take on a father role. Come on, I'm just her uncle. But I was always there for her, and I took it seriously when she came to me for advice or just needed someone to talk to. And to be brutally honest, I don't think she got that from her dad. He simply doesn't understand her. And he doesn't even try. For a long time, he saw fatherhood as a checklist. Provide money, show up at a few events, and that's it. For him, there was no other responsibility as a parent. She used to ask me things like, "Is it okay if I don't feel close to my dad?" Or, "Do you think he loves me?" What exactly is one supposed to say to that? I did what I thought any adult would do. I was there. I accompanied her, helped her with homework when she asked, even drove her to school a few times when her dad's car situation was a mess. I simply was present, nothing more. But apparently, that was too much. Last night, my brother showed up at my house unannounced. It wasn't a friendly visit. He was pounding on my door. It was around 9:30 p.m. When I opened the door, I immediately knew something was off. He smelled of whiskey, looked nervous, and could barely stand. I asked him what the hell he was doing. At first, he didn't even respond. He just walked into my house and started pacing back and forth in my living room. He kept muttering about how I'd crossed the line. Finally, he let it all out. He said that he and Ellie had gotten into a huge fight over something about her using his laptop without permission. He yelled, she yelled back, and in the middle of the argument, apparently she shouted something like, "I wish my uncle was my dad." That broke him, and I get it. Any dad would be devastated by that. But instead of reflecting or taking responsibility for his own emotional failures, he projected everything onto me. He accused me of stealing his daughter, claimed that I'd been playing the long game to replace him. Then, out of nowhere, he accused me of having something with Kayla. What? Where did that come from? I told him to leave my house before he said something he couldn't take back. He stood there for a second like he was about to hit me, then left. I haven't heard from him since. Later, Kayla sent me a message apologizing, saying she didn't know he was going to come over. Apparently, Ellie is staying with a friend for the weekend. It's a complete mess now. I'm stuck. I love my niece, and I've come to respect Kayla. I always wanted to be the kind of uncle who's present, not just the guy who shows up at parties. But now I feel like I've been painted as the villain. I don't know what to do. Do I distance myself from my brother, or try to make him see reason? Am I really being there for Ellie, even if it makes things worse? This isn't some love triangle or teenage drama. I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone. I'm just trying to be a good person for those who need it. Any advice is welcome because I'm completely lost. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe. New stories every day. Update 1. I know some of you want to know what's been happening with my brother since our last confrontation, so here's the current situation. After that drunken outburst, I didn't hear a word from him the next day, but I wasn't really expecting to. I figured he'd wake up with a hangover, regret everything, and maybe reach out after a few days. Instead, Kayla sent me a message early the next morning. It was just a simple, "We can talk later, I'd appreciate it." I agreed, and we set a time to meet for coffee that afternoon. Apparently, the night my brother showed up at my house, he'd already been in destructive mode for hours. According to Kayla, he'd been pissed off even before Ellie made her comment. Lately, he'd been paranoid, obsessing over the messages on Kayla's phone, wondering why she was always laughing when she got texts. And most of those messages had nothing to do with me. They were from a work chat group with a guy he'd known since high school. That was enough to send him into a "what are you hiding" mode. Then came the fight with Ellie over something stupid, her using his laptop without permission. He blew it up. She fired back with that "I wish my uncle was my dad" remark, and from there, he completely fell apart. That's when things got really weird. Kayla told me that instead of feeling sad or hurt, my brother convinced himself that she was letting Ellie feel that way, as if Kayla had somehow encouraged it. He accused her of emotionally aligning with me to alienate him from his own daughter. When she tried to shut him up and remind him that I'd just been there when he wasn't, he accused her of having been emotionally deceptive with her brother for years. I never even knew that was a phrase people took seriously. But in his mind, the fact that Kayla and I get along well meant we were secretly building a life behind his back. Kayla swore up and down that she'd never seen me that way, and I believe her. I told her the same thing. We're friendly, sure, but nothing inappropriate has ever happened. Honestly, I've always seen her as part of the family and respected her for staying in such a difficult marriage with my brother. Anyway, she told me that things have reached a critical point, that she's tired of this constant mess with him, tired of having to defend herself just for doing basic things like raising her daughter, and sick of being accused of deceit every time she even makes eye contact with another person. Then she said something that really hit home. She doesn't know if she's going to stay in this marriage. My brother is emotionally immature, deeply insecure, and refuses to acknowledge anyone else's needs if they make him uncomfortable in any way. The conversation ended with her asking one thing: "Please, don't change the way you are with Ellie." She said she knows her daughter needs stability and someone who'll listen, especially now that things at home are even more chaotic. I promised her I'd be there. But, of course, things didn't stay calm for long. That night, I got a call from my mom. For those wondering where my parents have been in all this, it's complicated. They're still alive, still married, still living in the same house we grew up in. But they've always walked on eggshells around my brother's behavior. He was always the sensitive one who took everything so badly, so they'd try to coddle him as we grew up. I guess some habits never die, because the first thing my mom said was, "Can you be more considerate of your brother right now?" I asked what she meant, and she launched into a whole speech about how he's been calling them nonstop, clearly upset, saying that I've been undermining his role as a father. Apparently, he told them that I've been manipulating his daughter into hating him. I kid you not. That was exactly the phrase he used. I asked my mom if she really believed that, but she didn't answer directly, which already said a lot. 2 days later, I got another message from Ellie. It was short. She just asked if she could come over so she could get away from everything at home. I said yes, of course, with her mom's permission. When she arrived, she seemed a bit more reserved than usual. Eventually, she opened up a little. She said that her dad was still treating her coldly, as if she'd betrayed him. She's been punished even though she didn't do anything wrong, and he tells her things like, "I hope your real dad approves," which is just plain cruel. I offered to take Ellie for the weekend if it would help, but I'm waiting on Kayla's confirmation. I think she's trying to keep things stable until she decides whether she's really going to leave my brother. And to be clear, I'm not involved in any of that. I'm not some knight in shining armor coming to save the day. I'm just the uncle who's been there, that's all. I'll update again if something major happens, but for now, I'm just trying to keep things as stable as possible for Ellie. Update 2. Honestly, I thought things couldn't get worse without someone ending up arrested or institutionalized, but here we are. My brother has completely lost it, and the fallout is affecting all of us, me, Kayla, and especially Ellie. A few days after Ellie stayed with me, I got a message from Kayla saying she needed to leave something with me. She mentioned it was important and didn't want to discuss it over text. I figured it might be something Ellie had left at her house, but when Kayla arrived, she was carrying a thick folder. She handed it over without much explanation, simply saying, "You might need to hold onto this for a while." Inside the folder was all the documentation from her marriage, financial records, a copy of their prenuptial agreement, screenshots of my brother's messages, and printed photos showing bruises from 2 separate incidents when he grabbed her during fights. I had no idea things had become physical. I asked her why she hadn't told me earlier, and she just replied that she didn't want to drag me into that mess. She explained that she'd been collecting evidence for a while but hadn't filed anything because she was afraid it would only make things worse. But now that he's become more unpredictable, especially with Ellie, she's started planning her exit. Apparently, she's been secretly talking to a divorce lawyer. She gave me the folder just in case something sudden happens, like if he kicks her out, cuts her off financially, or if my brother beats her to spinning a story. This folder is her backup plan. Then, she mentioned that my brother has been trying to convince our parents to back him up in a custody battle. Despite hardly being involved in Ellie's life, despite his temper, alcohol issues, violence, and his obsession with blaming everyone else, he's demanding full custody. All because, according to him, Kayla and I are poisoning Ellie's mind. And yes, he even dragged me into this supposed custody fight. Kayla said he told our mom that if she doesn't side with him, I'm going to turn Ellie against everyone. Then came the worst part. Ellie overheard her dad on the phone. Kayla thinks it was a coworker, and he was saying he'd catch them doing something wrong to prove that Kayla and I were having an affair. He's not going to find anything. I'm sure of that, but that hasn't stopped him from turning into some cheap conspiracy theorist. Apparently, he's been digging through old social media photos looking for any sign of infidelity. Kayla believes he's even trying to install a keylogger on her laptop. She found some strange software running in the background, and a friend had to wipe it all to be safe. Kayla's staying at the house for now because she doesn't want to disrupt Ellie's school year, but she's documenting everything. She even bought a second phone and started recording his outbursts during their fights. Honestly, I'm scared for her. With the way he's falling apart, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up doing something dangerous out of spite. And as if that wasn't enough, I got dragged into a mess at work. 2 days ago, my boss called me into her office, looking seriously worried. She said she'd received an anonymous email accusing me of having an inappropriate relationship with a married woman, and that I'd been, let's just say, way too close to my niece. Luckily, my boss knows me well. She didn't believe the allegation for a second, but she had to report it to HR to cover all bases. I cooperated completely, explaining the whole story, without sharing any unnecessary personal details about Kayla or Ellie, and even showing text messages and call records to prove I hadn't done anything remotely suspicious. They ended up dismissing the complaint after a quick review, but the damage was done. Now my coworkers are whispering, and someone must have overheard something because rumors are spreading like wildfire. I haven't directly asked around, but I'd bet everything that anonymous email came from my brother. I haven't spoken to him directly since the night he showed up drunk at my door, but now he's gone from making wild accusations to actively trying to destroy my life. He's completely lost his mind. Anyone who makes him feel insignificant becomes his enemy. Speaking of Ellie, she's really not doing well. She's withdrawn at school. Kayla says she barely eats and that when she isn't with me, she mostly locks herself in her room. When I saw her this past weekend, she barely said 10 words in the first hour. Eventually, she opened up a little, mentioning that her dad is still treating her coldly, as if she's betrayed him. They're punishing her even though she hasn't done anything wrong, and he tells her things like, "I hope your real dad approves." It's just plain cruel. I offered to take Ellie for the weekend if it would help, but I'm waiting for Kayla to confirm. I think Kayla is trying to keep things stable until she decides for sure whether she's going to leave my brother. And to be clear, I'm not involved in any of that. I'm not some knight in shining armor here to save the day. I'm just the uncle who's been there, plain and simple. I'll update again if the documents get filed or if anything major happens in this process. Update 3. It's unbelievable how fast things can go from tense and ugly to downright insane. Everything exploded this week in a way I was completely unprepared for, all after Kayla filed for divorce. 2 days after my last update, Kayla officially filed the divorce papers. Her lawyer delivered the documents to my brother at his workplace, deliberately choosing a public setting with others around to minimize any chance of violence or an emotional meltdown. Unfortunately, that didn't stop him. He exploded, making a scene at his job. I don't know all the details, but apparently he threw the envelope and had to be escorted out of his own workplace. HR got involved. Kayla later told me that now he's on some sort of probation while they investigate his behavior, and he might even lose his job. That same night, he showed up at my house again. This time he was sober, but that didn't make him any less of a problem. He stood outside, yelling my name at the top of his lungs. At least this time he was just yelling, but he was doing it in full force, claiming I was stealing his family and ruining his life. The neighbors ended up calling the police. I tried to talk to him for a moment. Maybe a stupid move on my part because he was completely out of it. He started asking if Kayla was with me, like physically inside my house. He managed to force his way in to check. I stopped him and calmly told him again that nothing was going on and that he was way out of control. That's when he broke down. He collapsed on the sidewalk, sobbing that he'd done everything right and that everyone always took my side. And I just stood there thinking, what exactly do you think you did right? The police eventually took him away. The next morning, things got even messier. Ellie sent me a panicked message from school. Apparently, my brother showed up at her school during lunch. Thankfully, he didn't go inside, but he waited in the parking lot and tried to talk to her when she came out with her friends. She told me he was rambling about how Kayla was turning her against him, even saying something like, "You'll regret choosing them over your father." A teacher saw what was happening and took Ellie back inside immediately. The school then called Kayla and later the police. No charges have been filed yet, but there's now a restraining order barring him from the school. They issued a temporary restraining order against him the same day, and Kayla's lawyer expedited the process after the incident. Now Ellie is legally protected from any direct contact. This seems to have finally set off alarm bells in Kayla's family too, as they're now organizing ways to protect her that they never did before. But, of course, in his typical fashion, my brother isn't backing down. Now he's trying to use social media as a weapon. A couple of mornings ago, I got about 13 notifications on Facebook, Instagram, and even LinkedIn. He made a bunch of posts tagging both me and Kayla, ranting about how we're adulterers, that we're brainwashing his daughter, and claiming that family is sacred, until your own brother decides he wants yours. It's not only embarrassing and crazy, it's dangerous. He even posted old photos of Kayla and me from family events years ago, captioning them as if they were proof of a long-running affair. One picture was from Ellie's 6th birthday party. We were standing side by side cutting a cake, and he posted it with a caption declaring, "This was the beginning." I reported every single post, and so did Kayla. A lot of friends also joined in reporting them. Some posts have been taken down, but not all, and unfortunately, the damage is done. Some distant relatives have even messaged me asking what's going on, and now rumors are spreading throughout our extended family. Kayla's parents called her in tears, asking if any of it was true. Fortunately, they believe her, but it's still humiliating. Even my work got wind of it. Someone sent screenshots to the HR director. Thankfully, this time it worked in my favor, as I had already been cleared after an investigation last week. This new attack just makes it seem like someone is out to get me. HR's response was basically, "We're aware of the situation. Just keep your documentation, that's all." I might have to consult a lawyer if this escalates further, but for now, they're still on my side. The final twist in this total mess came last night when our mom showed up at my house. She walked in without knocking, sat down, and told me she'd just come from my brother's place. According to her, he's barely eating, barely functioning, and apparently has been punching several walls at home. She begged me to talk to him. I asked her what exactly she thought I could say that would make a difference. I kept telling her, "He's your brother, he needs you." I said if she's truly worried about him, she needs to help him get therapy or some real help, not try to fix him by dragging me into his delusions. She left without another word. Now I'm officially the villain in both my brother's story and, apparently, in my mom's too. But I'm still supporting Kayla and Ellie. We've come this far, and I'm not about to take a step back just because my brother can't handle the consequences of his actions. The hearing for the restraining order is next week, and I've agreed to testify if needed. I'll update again after the hearing or if anything major happens. Update 4. Hey everyone, I didn't expect to be back with an update so soon, but here we are. The court hearing was last Tuesday. I arrived early with Kayla and her lawyer. Ellie stayed home. Her testimony was submitted in writing since she's a minor and wasn't required to appear. The courtroom was calm. It didn't feel like the kind of place where your whole family might fall apart in real time, yet that's exactly what went down. My brother came in without a lawyer. He had fired the one he originally hired, apparently because they told him truths he didn't want to hear, so he decided to represent himself. And, as you can imagine, it went exactly as expected. He showed up disheveled, like he hadn't shaved or slept in days. His opening statement, if you can call it that, was basically a rant about betrayal, how everyone had turned against him, and how his daughter had been brainwashed by me and Kayla. The judge cut him off after 3 minutes. Kayla's lawyer stuck to the facts, documenting the messages, detailing the school incident, presenting the social media posts, outlining his work issues, and recounting his uninvited late-night visits. I was called up to the stand briefly to confirm some of the events, but nothing overly dramatic, just straight answers to direct questions. Then came the moment that really broke something inside me. The judge read aloud Ellie's letter. In it, She wrote about how scared she was when her dad cornered her at school, how she'd once waited by the window as a little kid hoping he'd show up, though he rarely did. She described how much easier it was to breathe at my place, where she could think and not feel like she was walking on eggshells. She ended by saying she still wanted a relationship with her father, just only when he was healthy and honest. I didn't look at him as the letter was read, but I heard it. He was crying. The judge granted a 1-year restraining order protecting both Kayla and Ellie. He ordered my brother to undergo a psychological evaluation and complete anger management before any future consideration to lift the order was even discussed. The judge also pointed out that if custody ever comes into play again, these procedures would be taken into account, and that was it, no further debate. After the hearing, we left. My brother stayed behind, sitting alone at the defense table. We haven't heard from him since. His online accounts are still active, but it's as if everything else about him has vanished. It's unsettling. Part of me still half expects him to reappear and explode again, but so far, nothing. Kayla finally got a chance to breathe. She moved into a new place, a smaller, more manageable spot closer to Ellie's school. She's still in therapy and documenting everything for her divorce process, and she even started working part-time again. Ellie seems lighter too. Sure, the trauma is still there. She's only 14, but I can see a difference. She even asked me to help her apply for a summer leadership program she's excited about. I'll admit, I was scared for a while that all this chaos might permanently hurt her, but she's a strong kid. I think she's going to be okay. As for me, I've had to make some hard decisions about cutting ties. I'm done trying to fix my brother. I'm still here for Kayla and Ellie. Always will be, but I'm no longer going to try to patch things up with him. There's no way to fix this. I spent years trying to be the peacemaker, the one who smoothed everything over, who kept the pieces together after each meltdown. I did it out of duty and guilt, but not anymore. I've blocked him on everything. I told my mom, who still believes this is just a bad chapter, that I won't be attending any family events where he's present. Update 5. Things have been calm for Kayla and Ellie, at least when it comes to my brother. There's been no more torment from him. Over the past few months, the divorce has been finalized, and as expected, Kayla was awarded full custody of Ellie. Ellie even decided not to see her dad for a while. The divorce wasn't easy, given how unstable my brother is, but it's finally over, and they can now have a much calmer life. During this time, I started dating someone, and surprisingly, she gets along great with Ellie. I know I've gone from being the fun uncle to the boring uncle. Obviously, I'm not a lady, but I'm cool with that. I'm not jealous of my girlfriend, and it's good to see Ellie making friends. As long as she and Kayla are happy, that's enough for me. My brother, on the other hand, is a whole different story. He hasn't been happy at all. Besides the divorce and losing full custody, he also lost his job, not just for his attitude the day he got the divorce papers, but because he's been so erratic lately. My mom never got him the help he needed, which is what she should have done if she really cared. And for those who said I should worry more about him than about Kayla and Ellie, I did, when we still had any sort of relationship. But after he accused me and tried to sabotage my work, any chance for reconciliation just vanished. Part of me is even relieved he lost his job. He needs to learn that messing with someone else's work is a serious offense, especially when you haven't done anything to them. Maybe now he'll realize that you can't toy with these things. To complicate matters even more, he's alienated our mom. He showed up at her house completely drunk, accusing her of siding with Kayla too, just because they visit his granddaughter. My dad tried to kick him out, though my mom wanted to offer him a coffee to sober up. My brother even accused my dad of having a thing for Kayla, claiming everyone seemed overly concerned about her. My dad fired back, saying they weren't just worried about Kayla, they cared about all of us, including him. But he made it clear that my brother was just destroying his life and everyone else's around him. That's been my brother lately. Update 6. It's been 5 years, and so much has changed for me and the people I care about. For example, I'm about to get married. My fiancé said yes, and now all that's left is planning the wedding. It won't take long because it's going to be a very simple ceremony. Kayla has also started a new relationship, and even though I've only seen her new partner a few times, he seems to genuinely care about her and Ellie. Ellie tells me good things about him. I don't see my niece as much anymore since she's gone off to college. It's just not the same, but we keep in touch through messages, and she seems happy with everything. Now, the big news regarding my brother. He's decided to check himself into a treatment facility. Over the years he developed a lot of issues and never wanted to address them, but he finally reached out to our parents for help, and they've given it to him. My relationship with my parents is still complicated, to put it mildly, after everything that's happened. In fact, I didn't even hear about his hospitalization from them. Regardless, I'm glad he's finally getting treatment. If it helps him improve, then that's something. I can't really say what to expect from this treatment or what his current state of mental health is. We haven't been in contact for years, not even at family events, since I made it clear I wouldn't go if he was there, and I stuck to that. Still, I don't expect this to be a quick process. It'll probably take years for my brother to really get better.